Welcome back to another Post-Media Ottawa Senators panel. I'm Bruce Garriock, pleased to be joined by hockey writer Tim Baines and two-time Olympic gold medalist Cheryl Pounder, an analyst for TSN now. Cheryl, let's start with you. The Senators coming off back-to-back 5-2 wins Saturday over the Philadelphia Flyers and Sunday night over the Tampa Bay Lightning, and they look good in both those games for a team that is shorthanded without Shane Pinto and Josh Norris.
Oh, you said it. Putting up 10 goals ain't a bad thing, is it, Bruce? Right? Putting up 10 goals. I thought that their structure in their zone was a lot better. And let's face it, getting off to a good start, creating momentum, creating energy right off the hop really sends a pretty big message, especially playing a game against, a little bit short-staffed in the Tampa Bay. But, I mean, they've got a great team there as well. And so when you're an Ottawa Senators group and you come out there and you have that kind of commanding first period, I think it sends a huge message throughout your locker room. And I just like the way they're moving the puck on their exits. I think their structure, again, was a lot better in these last two games than it was in their first game, which I think is a big thing for them, because if they can get out of their zone efficiently, I mean, they're going to put that puck on the stick of an elite forward group. And that's what we were seeing in different layers in their attack. So really enjoyed their play.
You know, you look at it, Tim, and Cheryl mentioned scoring 10 goals, but she also talked about structure. And they got the saves they needed from their goaltenders, Jonas Korpisalo Sunday night and Anton Forsberg on Saturday. Korpisalo's new here. He's the guy they're going to depend on. I thought that win for Korpisalo and Forsberg coming back from two devastating injuries was as important as anything that happened with Brady Tkachuk this weekend, scoring 4 goals.
Yeah, it's obviously good for confidence. A lot of the little things you work on in training camp, the puck possession, things that you work on and you want to spill over into the season, those things were working for them this weekend. Let's face it, it's really tough for the opposition to score when the puck is in, when you've got the puck hemmed in their end. So, again, a lot of the things that you really want to refine and work on, we really saw that starting to gel on the weekend.
You know, one of the things that people were chanting about on the weekend is Shane Pinto. And the restricted free agent is not here. I do anticipate that I think we'll pass on speaking about Josh Norris, because I do anticipate he will play this week. But Shane Pinto remains unsigned as we speak right now. Cheryl, how do you solve that situation? You know, how do you find your way out of it?
Well, obviously managers in a real tough spot right now. I mean, I do have a question as to why this wasn't done much earlier. I mean, he's a priority, is he not? Yeah. Shane Pinto is one of those guys. We looked at him when he came into the league, and you look at him in his positioning in and around the puck, in particular in the defensive end, and he was just always solid and found his way out because he was in those strong, solid positions on the right side of the puck. And it's not by chance that the puck finds his stick. It's because he's in those right spots because of his IQ. And coming in and having 20 goals last season, you know that he is a bona fide 3C. He can elevate to 2C if there's an injury in the bumper on the power play. So this is something that should have been taken care of, in my opinion. But now you're looking at it from a situation of how can we get him into the fold here? And so you're asking questions about whether it's a forward that you're moving out of your lineup, whether it be by trade. And you're also looking at your decor and you're saying, okay, well, is this somewhere or something that we have to look at as well? So the big piece here to me is, where is the depth amongst this group and what should they be doing in terms of getting him back into the fold? Because let's face it, like, Greg is doing a real good job, but can you imagine this group when you get him and Norris back in? And I think that's pretty big.
You know, Tim, I look at this situation and thinking of Shane. Whose phone is ringing here?
I think that was me.
Is it?
I think that's me. Someone's trying to get a hold of me. I still have a landline, guys. I still have a landline. I mean, who the hell has a landline? I mean, my cell's right.
I got a landline too, Cheryl. It's okay.
Yeah, sorry, guys. Damn landline's too far away from me to let me grab it.
But Tim, you look at the situation with Shane Pinto, and I thought you made a good point that if you don't have him and it costs you 5 or 6 points, that could be the difference in missing the playoffs. But I think the other thing that's happened here, and this is what I was thinking last night, is Rourke Chartier is a nice player.
Yep.
but he's not good enough, Tim. He's not good enough, Tim and Cheryl, to play to get Kubalik and Batherson the puck.
No, I think ideally he's your fourth center. He's the guy you throw out on the penalty kill. Coach has talked about how responsible he is and how smart he is on the puck. So that's a guy, if he's out there playing 8 or 9 minutes a night, he can be really effective. But the demand on him right now is maybe putting him in a spot that maybe he's not best at. I think with the Pinto situation, it's difficult. Fans don't want to think about salary cap limitations and that. All they know is that Shane Pinto was not in the lineup, and they're not happy. They're ticked off.
Yeah.
So the longer this lingers, it's a distraction, and they really have to find a way to get this solved. And hopefully, it's not addition by subtraction, and they've got to reach into their roster and deal somebody. And that looks to be right now the only apparent really way out of this situation.
And I'm going to agree with you on that, Tim.
Cheryl?
Well, I mean, I agree with Tim wholeheartedly. And again, you can go back to why they're in this position in the first place, because again, in order of priority, I think he's a piece of your core. He is a piece of your core, and it should have been taken care of. He's the future of this organization alongside the other guys that have been signed. So yeah, there's that big question mark right there. But you're right, and you're talking about a young guy now who hasn't had his preseason, and the longer it goes on here, there's that question mark about how the readiness of his game to come in and play. The other thing too is, in the process, you have guys that like Greg who can step up. This is a nice piece for Greg. I think he's done a great job with Tarasenko and Joseph. So, he's stating his claim here. And someone like Chartre, you're right, Tim. I've liked him on both sides of the puck, in particular the defensive side of the puck. So that fourth line center. But to me, it is likely going to be, a piece of your roster. So right now, no matter which way you slice it, there is a hard decision that has to be made to get him into this lineup. You've got to put your stake in the ground if this is a guy and a piece that you're looking forward to moving with. And if I'm Shane Pinto, I want back in this lineup immediately, because I'm looking at a group that I know that has the opportunity to be in the playoffs, a group that is finding its rhythm, a group that is a year older and a year more mature. So I think there's a lot of things in the rings in the fire here, guys. But to me, this is paramount.
I guess the one way that there's two ways around this. One is to, as you say, move a piece with a first-round pick or a high-end prospect to get a salary off the books, maybe a Brandstrom or maybe I think Brandstrom is probably more stomachable than Matthew Joseph, because Matthew Joseph has $9 million left on his contract. But the other way to maybe try and do this, Cheryl, and I think this is what they're looking at, is to try and make a hockey trade. Yep. Where you bring up some kind of cheaper piece back so that you can fit in Pinto.
Sure. I mean, yeah, if you can get that happening on the now, right? That's the biggest question mark, and what you bring it in. Because I'm also looking at this, if you're looking at it as a puzzle or a puzzle piece, I mean, you do have some forward depth. Schmeichel isn't even in this lineup. Joseph has elevated his stock, let's face it, through preseason, or he would have been the one that you would have said, all right, so these guys can play themselves within, being more of a chip, or not. And Brandstrom's a question mark as well, right? Although I think he's elevated his game over the past year. How he's playing, how he's performing, this all matters. But again, at the end of the day, Bruce, no matter what, the time is now, because the fan base is going to get noisier. And they're fortunate they're winning games right now, because if they weren't, it would be extremely loud. But I guess, sorry, Tim.
I was going to say, let's remember as well, teams aren't lining up to trade, let's say, $1 million players for $3 million players. A lot of teams have got salary cap issues. So to say that they're going to trade a more expensive player and get a cheaper one, I'm not sure there's teams lining up to do that.
Yeah, no, and I'm with you, which makes this such a difficult situation to be in, pressed up against it like this. So very, very interesting. But I mean, the time was yesterday, right?
Yeah,
and that's kind of the big thing. And the longer it goes, it's not a good situation for sure. I mean, obviously getting Norris back, hopefully, will obviously quiet the noise a little bit, because now you've got a guy coming back into the fold just to add to that depth, of course, also figuring what he's going to look like in those first few games back, given the amount of time he's been out. So I think there's those pieces as well that you have to look at, but there certainly is depth there that's getting it done right now. And you've seen secondary scoring, you've seen your defense elevating from that standpoint. So, all pieces kind of contributing right now to get at least their last 2 W's.
Speaking of returns though, Tim and Cheryl, we saw it on Friday with Daniel Alfredsson rejoining the fold. This was not a surprise. But Tim, I like the fact that he doesn't have a title. So we're just going to bring him back. And Daniel Alfredsson's title is, well, he's just going to be Alfie. But like nobody else in town could not have a title. Right?
I don't think Alfie needs a title. He'll always be Alfie. That's right. You hear the crowd reaction every time he's introduced. The fans, the one player in Ottawa Senators' recent history that people think of is Daniel Alfredsson. And so what a tremendous move, whether it's ambassador, coach. He can be whatever he wants to be in this town. He owns the town. He still owns the town. And really, this is a case of the team trying to rebuild a trust and a relationship with not only its fan base but the community. And big kudos. This is a big step ahead.
And 100%, Tim. I mean, just what he's done. I mean, within the organization, and to me, it also, when you have a guy that's done what he's done, and from multiple layers and levels. What I mean by that is not just his offensive production, not just getting to the playoffs, his leadership. I think when you bring someone into the fold that has that much respect, they're listened to. And so when you have a young group, what Giroux has brought to this group on the ice, you've got a guy that can lend to the experience, what it was like, the work ethic, winning, learning what it takes to win, being maybe a sounding board, having a different eye for what works. So I think he could massage his way into any facet of this organization, whether it's talking to the entire group about winning, or whether it's talking to the entire group about how, it has to be a 200-foot game to a respective structure, to, what it takes off the ice to be able to be at your best for a period of time or a playoff run, how fatiguing it is, and taking care of yourself. And then having this leadership quality about what it means to be a great leader. And then having, some of the youth really being able to lean on someone like that. So I think he can be a set of eyes and extra voice, or maybe a sounding board for a coach. He could be part of a development where he's got his eyes in the sky saying, listen, I don't think this is working. And from my standpoint in today's NHL game, I don't know if this is going to work. So I think, he presents the full gamut of the landscape. But most importantly, you have a guy there's just so much respect and leadership that can resonate and reverberate through the entire organization. And that fabric is that intangible that sometimes is the difference maker. So to me, I'm excited to see the energy that he brings and just the wealth of knowledge around every area of the game.
Cheryl, who would have been that player you played with on Team Canada where you went?
Oh, geez, that's a Vicky Sanahara probably for me. Well, I think you have players that they're the glue.
Yep.
And I think that winning teams, regardless of what they are on paper, it's why the best teams on paper don't always win, is they have glue pieces in their room, and they have glue pieces in their staff. And so those glue pieces are able to stick the group together through adversity, and make them stronger. They recognize when someone's off, the temperature is off within the room and need to do something. I think Brady Tkachuk is reading that temperature very well as a young captain through his maturity and how he's coming along and growing. Because sometimes it is a hit, sometimes it is a fight, but sometimes it's something else, right? Sometimes it's saying, hey, that guy had the assist on that, right? Look at my goaltender there. So I think, there's multiple layers to it. And so for me, it's who are the glue pieces, and it's not necessarily the leading scorer. It's sometimes that unsung player that just works their ass off, to be truthful, that everyone looks to. So to me, those pieces, those band-aids, if you will, that stretch out and wrap their arms around everyone is critical. And I think Alfie's one of those pieces, and not just for the team within, but he's also a connector to the fan base. And so that makes it just that much more tiered in sort of the emotion and passion around this particular group.
Well, it'll be interesting here in Ottawa, because the Professional Women's Hockey League is coming here, Cheryl. And before we go, I just want to see how you think the city will support that.
Oh, I think the city will do a tremendous job. I always say, and it's not just because I work Sens games, but the community and the fan base, although smaller than some, is mighty. And I've always felt that way in terms of the corridor within the women's game. My daughter's playing the game. I played in the women's game my entire career. And anytime you sort of went up to that corridor in Ottawa, Canada, in and around there, it was always a gumption for the game. There was always a passion for the game. I remember playing in Renfrew and Arnprior. There was always that, that passion for the game. And the rivalry series, I believe it was a year ago or just a year and a half ago-ish, we were in that corridor. And I remember when Jamie Lee Rattray stepped on the ice, and everyone, an Ottawa native, and everyone's going crazy and everyone's wearing the jersey. So I think they're going to wrap their arms around this PWHL team, embrace it, support it, and give it a real opportunity to succeed. And you got a good team there. So you got a great coach, great mind, who I think should also be shared with the Ottawa Senators organization, because she's brilliant, and Carla McLeod. And so I think that there's a real connector there. And there's so many young women who play the game that I think it's a natural fit.
Okay, last question. Start with you, Tim. Will there be playoff hockey in Ottawa this spring? I will say, with a proviso, as long as Josh Norris stays healthy, I think there will be. Tim, go ahead.
Well, it goes back to, as an old football coach, Jim Mora, and I'm going to do a really bad impersonation here, but it was something like, playoffs? Playoffs? Don't talk playoffs! Yes! How do you, I think they could be a playoff team, but who do you knock out of that top 8? Did the Islanders fall out? Is Florida falling? Is Tampa falling without Vasilevsky?
Last night, Tampa, Tim.
They get Vasilevsky back at some point. It makes a difference. They didn't have Stamkos last night. They're so well coached. It's tough to knock them out. So when you talk about Buffalo and Pittsburgh didn't make the playoffs last year, Buffalo's an improving team. Detroit's an improving team. So there are some pretty good teams. It's going to be an interesting race. I think particularly in the East. That battle to try and get in there. And Ottawa, certainly, we don't know about injuries. We don't know what's going to happen down the road. We need to get Pinto back in the lineup, but certainly they'll be in the fight.
Cheryl, can you maybe give me an answer?
Yes, they will make playoffs. And again, I had them not even in a wild card spot. I had them making it top 3. And the reason, again, I had them wild card last year. And again, I think they're a little young. I really like New Jersey as well. And I was contemplating them, making the East final. And the reason why, but I think they're a year away just because of their youth, and a few other things for them. But for me, with the Ottawa Senators, I think that solidifying their top 4 defense was incredibly big for me. Now, sorting that out in terms of who's on what side we could spend 20 minutes with me talking about that and sort of how that landscape looks. But I do think that, if they can get solid goaltending, if they can really take advantage of the advantage they do have with the start of their season, their home games, and play each game to its fullest. And I know that can't happen with the schedule, but I do think that, you can't have these massive lulls within your season. You can have a game or two that are lulls, but you can't have, 10 game lulls. You have to be able to manage the ebbs and flows of a season. And so that's learning how to bounce back after a difficult one and find out, win the tough ones, get those hard wins, those 1-goal games. And so, that's a big thing. And I think that's maturity. I think that's defensive structure. So I think if they can do that, I think that they've got the group to be able to pull it off.
All right. Well, Cheryl, we appreciate you joining us today. Cheryl Pounder, Tim Baines. Cheryl, we're going to let you go check the answering machine for.
Well, it's probably got 40 messages on it, Bruce. Because
it's a dentist office.
I can honestly tell you, I get one call every week on that landline, and it's usually my 407 bill telling me I haven't paid.
All right. For the Post Media Ottawa Senators panel, thank you to Cheryl Pounder and Tim Baines. I'm Bruce Garriock. Take care.